Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with you all. We'll start as usual with a question that's come in advance from our global family. And then we'll take any questions that anyone here has. Can you meditate while doing other things? Absolutely. Now, we need to have a time every day, ideally twice a day, morning and evening, but minimum at least once a day, in which you're having just a seated meditative practice. When you're not doing other things, when you're just able to be 100% anchored and grounded and focused on that meditation. Whether you meditate on your breath or you meditate on a mantra, whatever the focus of your meditation is, at least once a day make sure that you are doing what we would consider traditional meditation. You're sitting down on the ground or on a chair, your eyes are closed or ever so slightly open, softly focused in front of you. And you are consciously drawing the awareness. Whether you are drawing it just as awareness, just to be aware, whether you're simply anchoring in that mindful awareness, or whether you are drawing that awareness onto your breath, onto a mantra, onto a prayer or a name of God. Whatever it may be, make sure that you've got that time. But the rest of the day presents us with beautiful opportunities to keep meditating. It makes life actually so much nicer. I mean, you think, let's say you've got to do the dishes, okay? Now there's two ways to do the dishes. One way is, oh my God, I hate this. I can't believe I've got to do the dishes. Let me just do this really fast because I've got so many other things I want to be doing. Why am I always the one who has to do it? Why does he not do it or she doesn't do it? Not fair. That's one way of doing the dishes. It's a task, it's a job. You don't enjoy it, you don't like doing it. You'd rather that someone else does it. And basically the goal is just to get through it as quickly as you can so you can do what you enjoy doing instead. Another way to do the dishes is as you are doing it, to allow that sensation of the warm sudsy water, that sound of the flowing water, that very simple task that doesn't actually require the brain to be too focused on it. You don't have to really direct a lot of brain cells on the dishes. It's pretty manual and simple. And so you really can just allow yourself to be absorbed fully in that beautiful awareness of that moment. The way that the warm water feels, the way the suds feel, the way the sound of the rushing water sounds. That repetitive motion. And it actually provides a beautiful background for meditation. And so then washing dishes becomes a meditative experience. When you walk, a lot of us walk as quickly as we can to get where we're going as fast as we can. A lot of us try to multitask when we walk, right? If you've got to go a little while, we've got our phones out, we might as well get some work done while we're walking. Well, not only is that incredibly physically dangerous, because you're very likely to trip and fall or bang into something, but under the guise of being more effective, right? We think, why even waste the moments I'm walking? Let's put them to use. I can get some work done. Make that call, send that message. Instead of that, can I use that as my meditation time? Can I do walking meditation? And it doesn't mean that you have to walk very, very slowly. Sometimes you've got a limited amount of minutes to reach where you're going. You can be meditative at whatever speed you're walking. It's certainly easier if you're slow. But at any speed, the mind can be absorbed just in the full awareness of what you're doing. The left heel is down, then the left ball of the foot is up. Then the left heel comes up, the right heel goes down. The right ball of the foot goes down. Then the right heel comes up, the left heel goes down. There's a shift in the weight of my body from front to back, from left to right. There's a shift in the movement of my arms. As I move from one foot to another, changing the weight, well, my arms shift. There's this whole beautiful experience that we can just become aware of. We can become aware of our breath as we walk. How are we breathing? And so walking can become a meditation. Almost anything you do can be meditative, except work that requires a lot of mental focus. It's hard to be really mentally focused on balancing a checkbook or solving a math problem or, writing a bunch of emails and meditating at the same time. But all of the stuff that's just of the body, we're walking, we're cooking, we're cleaning. All of that can and should be used as an opportunity to be really meditative. And even when you're working with your mind, there's the ability to reach a state where you're the one aware that thinking is happening. You're the one aware that math is being done. You're the one aware that sentences are being formulated and typed and written. And so then you even can be meditative doing those things. But in the beginning, just allow all of the things that don't require all of your mental focus. Use them as opportunities to meditate. At the end of the day, and certainly at the end of your life, you're going to be much more satisfied with all those moments that you chose to use to meditate while you walk, while you clean, while you cook, while you move through the world, rather than using them to get all of your phone calls and messages done. I know the temptation is there. I've got these 10 things I've got to do. I've got no time to do them. I've got a 10-minute walk. I can make 3 phone calls. The temptation is there. But allow yourself not to be tempted. And to instead see that time as a precious opportunity to meditate. Questions? Yes.
Pranam Sadhviji. Whenever we are walking, we might not be able to see like the small ants in a way. And suppose if any ant gets killed under my foot, so can it be attributed to my my karma, or is it like is it like the time span which God has decided for that ant that he she got get killed under my foot, like
Yeah, it's both. It's both. So yes, it's your karma. Karma means action. So your action of stepping on an ant that you didn't see while you were walking and killing it, that action of doing it is going to have what we call karmic fruit. The repercussions of that action. So whatever the repercussions of that action may be, they will come to you because of that action that you have done. Now, the universe is really very kind and very forgiving, and especially at this time of Kali Yuga, when we're all so shrouded in darkness, that there's a lot of different ways in which we get help from the universe, help from the way that karma works in this yuga compared to other yugas. But whatever you do, there's going to be a reaction. There's going to be a karmic response. Now, I think what you meant when you say, was it my karma, meaning, was it predestined that I was going to step on this ant? So as I always say, the of predestined isn't always something that was thousands of years ago. I mean, a lot of us think of that which is predetermined or predestined as though it were hundreds, thousands, lifetimes ago, written somewhere in the heavens that on this day, you're going to step on that ant. Well, not necessarily. It may simply have been predestined when you set off on that walk mindlessly, in the midst of stress, in the midst of anger. Your mind is going 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're thinking about that person who was rude to you. What are you going to say to them the next time you see them? Or you're thinking about this thing at work that's not working. How can you figure that out? So your mind is going all over the place. You've lost your mindfulness. You've lost your awareness. You've lost your grounding in the present moment. And so when we do that, we tend to steamroll through life, meaning that we tend to roll over, whether it's ants on our way, whether it's other people's feelings. We tend to cause injury when we are not really fully aware and anchored and grounded in that moment. So the of the predestined, of you stepping on the ant, may have been determined 5 minutes ago rather than 5,000 years ago. when you say, was it that the universe, that God just decided, at this time this ant has to die? Well, yeah, on a cosmic level, on the highest cosmic level, we are simply tools in God's hands. This is what Bhagavan Krishna explains so clearly in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. When Arjuna says, but I could kill them. And Bhagavan Krishna basically says, oh really? And who are you suddenly to be the one who determines who lives and who dies? That's not your job. You don't have that power. You are not the giver of life. You are not the taker of life. That's me. You're just an instrument. Nimitta matram. You're just an instrument. Surrender to me. Let me work through you. So yes, on a very vast cosmic level, everything happens exactly when it is meant to happen. And yet, us, in our ever-increasing consciousness, mindfulness, compassion, awareness, love, is an integral part of that perfection of the universe. When we think about this perfection of God and perfection of the universe, and it's all happening, whatever's supposed to happen, and so I'm just sort of a pawn in all of this. Well, that isn't true. You, in this particular karmic incarnation, with your mind, your inclination toward meditation, toward sadhana, toward satsang, toward introspection, that will blossom into wisdom, into compassion, into awakening, into healing for you and others. That is part of the perfection of the universe. It's not the universe is perfect minus you. You just have to sit on the couch and eat potato chips because the universe is perfect anyway. Each of us is a critical part of the perfection of the universe. Meaning, you becoming conscious of how you walk, how you move through the world, how you eat, what you eat, how you dress, what you wear, what you buy, how you speak, how you live, how you interact with others. That is part of the perfection of the universe. And that's where it's about each of us having to play our own perfect role perfectly. Because that's what enables the universe to be perfect. And so you having this thought is going to make you much more conscious when you walk in the future. I mean, there's, if you look at the lineage of Jain saints, for example, the ones who walk everywhere. Well, they don't go anywhere during the rainy season. The tradition of Chaturmas, of those months of just stopping for sadhana, is not just because the rainy season is beautiful and very conducive to sadhana. It's because that's the time of year when there's so many bugs and worms that come up from the ground. And when traditionally the saints walked everywhere on foot, and many of the Jains still do, it's much more likely that they're going to step on something and inadvertently cause harm. And so that's why they don't move in those months. It's why you may have seen they've got those really soft little brooms that they carry with them, is literally to to sweep away any creatures that might be there on the ground in front of them. I remember in 2010, we launched the Encyclopedia of Hinduism during the Kumbh Mela. It was the massive Kumbh Mela in Haridwar. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama came. And he stayed 2 days with us here at the ashram, and we had this beautiful function in Haridwar. And I was sitting just behind His Holiness. He was sitting right next to Pujya Swamiji, and I was just sitting right behind them. And I kept seeing His Holiness bend down. He kept bending down. And I'm thinking, that's odd. Like, why does His Holiness keep bending down? And I found out later that actually what was happening was he kept bending down to pick up little tiny caterpillars or other critters that were on the ground in front of him. And he would hand them to his guard who was standing, at the foot of the stage, because wherever His Holiness the Dalai Lama goes, obviously they've got his guard. So he would just pick it up and hand it to his guard to move it out of the way. Now you think, here he is sitting on this massive stage in the middle of the Kumbh Mela, this huge event, all of the biggest saints of India. I mean, a hundreds of person stage, huge thing, live TV, everything's going on. But what's he focused on? The little caterpillars on the stage. Because people kept standing up to walk to the mic. And he didn't want anybody to step on any of the little bugs, so he would just bend down. It was 12 years ago, but he still wasn't a young man. He's late 80s now. But he kept bending over to do it because of that awareness. It would be so easy to say, well, I guess if someone steps on him, it's just his time to go. I guess it was the caterpillar's karma to get squashed. But what he knows is it's his dharma as this embodiment of compassion to act out of compassion. Regardless of what the caterpillar's karmic dues may be. He's the Dalai Lama. He's going to always move in compassion. And it's such a beautiful model for us. Yeah, it may be the ant's time to go. But maybe it was the ant's time to go until the perfection of my compassion and awareness came in to move him out of the way. Never underestimate the power of your role in bringing about much better outcomes than might have happened without your role. Never allow yourself to just get complacent in this, well, I guess it must be their karma to be poor, I guess it must be his karma to die, I guess it must be the caterpillar's karma to get squashed. Ask yourself, what's my dharma? And how can that be my guiding light? Whatever other people's or animals' karmic package is, it'll come to them. You don't have to worry about it. We need to worry about our own dharma and living that in awareness, in compassion, in truth. Great. Yes.
Namaskaram. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to ask this question. So, last year I was in New Zealand, and I have been to one of the retreats. It's Ajahn Chah's monastery, and Ajahn Chah is one of the Thai Buddhist enlightened master. So very impressive. They talks a lot about compassion, and they definitely give a lot of examples about how we shouldn't be killing the mosquitoes and ants and insects. And at the same time, if people are offering them meat, what happens is like Sri Lankan and Thai people, every Saturday and Sunday, they bring dana. It's like a dana kind of food offering to the monks. So And they also bring meat products as well at the same time. So I asked, I really respect that monk because he's played a big part in my spiritual journey. But at the same time, they accept that because what they say is it's compassion. People are putting a lot of efforts. They're putting a lot of love and compassion into it. They're getting up 3 a.m. to cook for us. And whatever they're bringing, we just accept with the compassion. But my question is, isn't that compassion going to encourage people to kill more animals?
So, yeah, it's a beautiful question. And I think that, the last thing that I would want to do is pass a judgment or second guess masters of that caliber. But aside from that, if you asked me this question just aside from what the masters are doing, what I would say is compassion is not stagnant, meaning, let's say that today you show up and you bring me a meat dish. And you bring it with love and devotion, and you got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you cooked it. I would accept the offering. I wouldn't eat it, because regardless of how much love or compassion there is in it, I couldn't actually bring myself to eat it. I wouldn't throw it away. I would figure out a way to give it to a hungry, homeless person who wasn't a vegetarian. Because the animal's already died. You throwing it in the trash doesn't serve anyone. However, what I would be very careful to do is in my next sermon or teaching to make sure that people understood that their offerings of compassion should be compassionate not only to me to whom they were offering it, but that they should be compassionate in their ripple impact across the world. And I think that that would be a beautiful and powerful opportunity so that people don't feel that they've been judged or criticized. The last thing you would want to do is hurt someone's devotion. But as teachers, we have to be willing to grab that teaching opportunity that says, as you make your offering in the future, I'll give you a specific example from Pujya Swamiji's life. So, when I first met him and got this blessing of seva, of being able to travel with him, wherever he would land up in the world at an airport, hordes of people would come to the airport. They'd come with lots and lots and lots of flowers. He would spend 2 minutes, right? You've just gotten off of a long flight. You've got to get in a car, go somewhere. It wasn't like we were having satsang in an airport. He would walk through, they would bow, they would do pranam, and then everyone would disperse. And sometime very shortly after that, I remember we were in London, and it was late 1990s. And I remember he gave a beautiful teaching in a large lecture program. People had arrived at the airport that morning, same thing. He had accepted the flowers with love. He had greeted everybody with love and blessings. But in the lecture that night, he said, look, it costs you people at least £5 to park your car. Let's say even on 50 people come. So that's £250 of parking. Petrol to get to Heathrow from wherever you're coming in from. That's another expense. Everybody gets in at least half an hour before the flight arrives. You drive through traffic. You're spending a good 3 hours minimum. Then again, that's 3 hours by 50, that's 150 man-woman hours. He said, you're all going to see me anyway. You're coming for satsang. You're coming for the lecture program. You're coming for darshan. He said, from now on, one person, and that one person can bring one flower. He said, I understand the awe of the devotion. He said, but every time I see those flowers, I just think God put them on the plants because that's where God thought they were beautiful. Why would we pull them off the plants and then offer them as though it were an offering of love? Yeah, sometimes they fall. When they fall, it's beautiful. That's what we offer in our puja. The flowers that have fallen anyway. But when you buy a bouquet in the market, those are not flowers that have fallen on their own. So he made a rule, one person, one flower. The only adjustment that he's ever made to that in all these years was, after 9/11, they no longer let you leave your car at the curb and come in. You know, they started all the new safety things. You're not allowed to stay parked. So he amended it to one car, two people, one flower. So that one person, and because that was the other part of the rule, was you weren't allowed to park. You had to just come. He didn't want the money to be wasted in the parking lot fee. So once the driver of the car was no longer allowed by security to leave the car for a few minutes and come in, he said, fine, two people. One drives around the airport. The other one comes in to receive me. And then we just walk out on the curb and sit in the car. So it's a perfect example of receiving it with love. He didn't say in the airport, my God, you people, what have you done? You've wasted your morning. He received it with love. But then he used it as a teaching opportunity of how to make better use of your money, of your time. And I think that that could be done. And to me, that would be an important thing to be done. You know, my parents used to have cats. And the cats would bring home dead birds or dead lizards. And, I mean, it was awful. It was nauseating. But, you know, you'd wake up some morning and on the staircase landing, there'd be some dead bird with the cat sitting next to it. Like, look what I brought home. You know, good morning. Happy birthday. And it was awful. And yet you realize, well, this is a cat. This is what cats do. And you're not going to teach the cat not to do that. Eventually, they made them inside cats, so they stopped going out altogether. But the point is, people are not animals. People can learn. We don't have to resign ourselves to the idea that our community is just like animals who bring home dead birds because that's what they do. We have the ability to actually guide them, not only into what they bring, but also, therefore, into what they eat and their diets. So I would think that would be a powerful opportunity for a teaching in compassion. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow evening. And until then, so much love to you all.